he wouldn't pick another color because at the time he was mad. So I'm like, okay. When I went home, I'm like, I can write a book on emotions, like how can kids express themselves in color. So when I started writing the book, I asked one of my friends, I'm like, do you think kids can like express themselves in color? She was like, yeah, of course. Now I've been in education for 10 years. My 9th year, I told myself, I said, I'm going to take a leap of faith. Let me go work in the schools. Why did I do that? I fell in love with it though to the point that I don't want to go back to daycare. This was my first full year in middle school. I started as an IA. And you know, teacher shortage is real short. So as I'm maneuvering my position, I went into this classroom, I had to cover. The next day, I had to cover. I'm like, y'all want to tell me this teacher not coming back, right? Because I don't see her no more. So after that, I became a math teacher. So my students kept asking me, how are you a math teacher, but you're a writer? I was like, it wasn't supposed to be like this, but here we are, we're about to learn this math. So I told my kids that, you know, I'm a writer. They were so shocked, they didn't believe me, so I had to bring all my books in. And they would tell me, oh my God, I can't believe we get to spend 8 hours a day with our author, you're teaching math, and you're a writer. We don't know how that's possible, but it's possible. So I'm like, yes, it's possible. So my school does something called PTL classes. It's a class where kids get to venture out and like different activities. So of course I wanted to start a writing program. So some of the girls in my class were like, can I be in your program? Can I be in your program? I'm like, sure. And well enough, by the end of the program, they all had great books. So they all had become authors. So not me knowing that it was a girl that she would always sit in the back, and every time I looked up, she was always writing, even when sometimes I wasn't teaching, they were just doing like independent work. I'm like, what is she back there writing? She was back there writing a whole book, and I didn't know. And one day she asked me, she said, hey, how are you writing? I said, I sure can. And it was a really nice book, and I told her, well, whenever you're ready to get it published, just let me know and I can help you get it published. So she kept coming to me. She was like, I have a new chapter. I think she wrote like 10 chapters. But for me writing, when I was a little kid, I did not like writing. My mom used to make me write. I hated it. And it's like now that I'm growing up, I have 5 books. I am working on my book 6. It's going to be a hair book. I have to play around with the title a little bit. But I just like encourage all my students, like, you know, you can be anything you want to be. Like, don't stop living your dream. Whatever you want to be, go do it. If you want to be more than one dream, you can be more than one dream. Because like me, I'm a teacher. I did not dream I dreamed of being a teacher, but not a 6th grade teacher. I always told myself I cannot go that further.
So that is me. I am grateful that I do not look like what I've been through. And so what I like to start by telling people is, because if you look at me, you would never know that I'm somebody and hear all the things that Levine read about me, which is all wonderful. But what I like people to know is that was not always my situation, that was not always my story. So I'm someone who battled with severe depression and anxiety daily. You know, I went from having 2 incomes, 1 income to no income. I lived in a house with my daughter when we had no heat, and we were confined to the smallest room of the house. I was someone who was scraping change from a water jug and taking it to Save-A-Lot and putting it in a coin game so that I can afford to buy my daughter spaghetti. And if y'all know, like I know, we make a big old pot of spaghetti that's gonna last you for a while. So I was in full survival mode, right? And so when I tell people I'm somebody, and this is important for me too, y'all, because people think that because you've messed up, because you've done things, you can't reach goals and go to certain levels in your life, right? So I'm here as somebody who was a lookout person doing robberies because I was involved in a relationship with the wrong type of person. I am a person who experienced abuse, but I'm currently thriving through that, and I've overcome that. I'm somebody who was addicted to drugs. I used to pop pills, smoke weed, and do syrup every single day to cope, right? But I believe that God is powerful, and I believe that prayer works. And if you would ask me would I ever be an author, I would tell you absolutely not, right? And so growing up, I wanted to be a teacher. That was my goal growing up. And one day, my uncle said to me, you don't think about writing a book? I said, for what? Why would I do that? I'm not interested in writing a book. Right? And so he initially planted that seed. And from there, you know how when God gives you something, he's not going to let you get away from it. It's going to be this pull, it's going to be this tugging, you're not going to be able to rest. And that's what happened to me. And what God had led me to realize is that everything that I went through, it was to save the life of somebody else. And so like LaVon said, I'm an international speaker, so I travel the world speaking, but that's not only the only way that God did use me to get my message out, to get my strategies out, my principles. He's also allowed me to put it in the book. And so my first book that I published is From the Struggle to the Stage. I published this in December of 2022. And this is not about struggling and then standing on a stage like this. This is about being in situations where we struggle with depression or anxiety or being in an abusive relationship, or we can end up in a stage in our life where we are victorious, where we're thriving, where we're healthy, when we're happy. I remember when I was in an abusive relationship, the person who abused me told me that nobody would never want me. He told me that my looks wasn't good, my body didn't look good, that my skin was too dark, and nobody would ever want me. But I can stand here to say that for 6 months, I have been locked into a God-ordained college.
She probably assumed that my stepfather would take over and get me through everything, but my stepfather had different ideas. So after I lost my mother, my stepfather basically didn't want to be dealing with me. So him and his family used to go to the house or whatever, and I put myself through college. What I told myself from that point on, I went through depression and everything, I told myself that I had to change my mindset and I had to figure out who I am, where I was going to go, and what to do with my life, because there was a time that I didn't want to have life anymore. So once I got through those stages and I, found my husband, who's a wonderful husband, and when we decided to have a kid, I said, I don't want to have a kid unless I get rid of some of this mental baggage. I want to cut the cycle. I don't want to transfer negativity onto my child and be mad at her for the wrong reasons. You're sitting up there dealing with stuff, and instead of dealing with it, you transfer it over to your kid. And I did not want to do it. I see it all the time. So what I did was I started journaling, writing, putting everything on paper and books, and just trying to get it out and figure out why my stepfather like that. Oh, well, he's his own person. It's not about you. It's a reflection of what you went through. Why is my mother gone? Well, that's part of life. So I had to go through these different processes, and when I started doing that, it started helping me realize the type of mother I wanted to be. What do I want to teach my daughter? How do I want to deal with anger? How do I want her to manage her life and not ingest it like I did and have these coping issues? So the first book that I came out with was with the journaling was Journey of a Masterpiece. So this is a collection of, going internally, figuring out what I want, but it also divided it up into chapters. It talks about, what type of mom I want to be. And then when I became a mom, I started writing about her. Oh, this is how the type of child she is. This is how I dealt with her anger. This is what the beauty of being a parent is. And I love that because I wanted to make sure that I had something to give to her that my mom couldn't give to me when I lost her. Because that was another problem that, now your role is no longer a daughter. Your role is yourself. Yourself. You didn't have anybody to respond to and say, hey, I got an award. Hey, praise me. No, you're yourself. So I wanted to make sure that when I'm gone, long gone, that she has reflections of me and stories of me that she can.
I'm the first generation born in the United States. My parents migrated or immigrated from West Africa, Liberia to be exact. And they came over to a new continent, a new country, a new culture with absolutely nothing or very little to nothing. All they had was a hope and a dream to have a better life for the family that they planned on developing. So, that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of boldness. That's something I probably didn't have growing up, that level of boldness and courage. So just standing here in front of you guys, it took a lot of development to get to this space, and I'm still getting there, to be honest with you. So I grew up in North Jersey. It's a town called Jersey City. So it's between New York City and Newark. So it's a small little town. I don't know if you ever heard of it. So after high school, that's when I came down to Philadelphia, and I attended Temple University. I majored in psychology. Any Temple hours? Hey, see you, no, don't say it. I know there's always a Temple hour somewhere. So I went psychology, got into the mental health and behavioral health field for a few years, and then I decided to go back to school for my master's degree. I went to Chestnut Hill College where I majored in clinical psychology, like you said in the bio, and with a concentration in marriage and family therapy. So for about 15 years now, I've been working as a therapist in different capacities, in schools, with families, with couples, individuals, with addictions. I've worked in all different capacities when it comes to therapy. And that's my passion. That's what I enjoy doing. That's what I love to do. Been doing it for 15 years now. As I said in the bio, I've actually come out with 3 books. So my first book was released in 2017 after my mom passed away. That was entitled From Relational Hurt to Spiritual Healings. That's a collection of, I should say, collections of experiences, collections of stories that I drew from scripture, that I drew from the Bible, but it's all about relationships and overcoming pain and hurt, depression, things of that nature. In 2020, during the pandemic, that's when I dropped my second book, which is entitled Ready for a Relationship. I forgot the name of my book. It's Ready for a Relationship. And just this year, I dropped my third book, which is entitled The Sexual Miseducation of Black Men in America, which is probably one of my most powerful, impactful books thus far. I definitely hope to get to 6 books or 5 books, but so that's my third book right now. And as I said, I work as a therapist. I work with couples. I work with